Hey folks, let's just take off where we ended last episode on the constellation Pisces Austrinus with its brightest star, Fomalhaut. Fomalhaut is a first magnitude star, the 18th brightest star in the night sky. Although it is 1,840 times bigger than our star, it hardly has double of our sun's mass. The rings consist of radiated dust, mainly carbon-rich particles. And not too long ago, it was established to be a binary star system together with Fomalhaut B. Fomalhaut B recently was renamed Dagon, after the fish god or fish monster of the Assyrians. I actually also saw a recent article with the claim that it's a triple star system of which the stars are on extremely large distances from each other. The name stems from Arab Fum al-Hud, which means mouth of the fish. Later on, that name has been given the French sound Fomalhaut. And the earliest Arab name for the star, however, is the first frog, Al-Difti al-Awal. This could relate to Enki sending a frog or several frogs after Inanna, after she ran with the Meh. A Meh is a divine decree, one Meh, two Mes. A natural law or a moral to be implied in many levels and parts of life. The Arabs speak of two frogs. The second frog is Deneb Kaitos, Cetus' biggest star. It has nothing to do with Deneb in the Tale of Cygnus, in case you wonder. I didn't investigate it further. Episode 3 has an appendix that goes deeper into the connection of frogs of Eastern European, Egyptian, and ancient Indian and Asian culture with fertility as a symbol of yearly inundations, announcing raining season, therefore a symbol of prosperity. In a sort of similar way, this counts for one of the Aboriginal Dreamtime stories about a frog named Tidalik. That frog drank all the water, causing a drought, until the eel made him laugh and he spat it out again, causing a flood. Those who are familiar with frogs and their sudden appearances after rain and their noisy concertos around monsoon season and yearly floodings, I think, will naturally acknowledge the evident association of wealth with these amphibic deities in early sedimentary or agricultural societies, from old Europe all the way to East Asia. Even though the archetypal reptilian mother goddess was widespread during the late Neolithicum, I did not find any reference to this big fish being a female, let alone a mother deity. Yes, the Pisces constellation of the zodiac is its offspring, but I didn't find anything on its gender. There was a connection, though, according to some historic accounts and research, with the Assyrian deity Atargatis, a mother and fertility deity I mentioned last episode. That being said, I'm leaving it open for someone else to investigate, or not. The star has served as a compass for those early navigators who sailed southwards from early days of seafaring on. Fomalhaut is one of the brightest stars in the sky. It serves as a light beacon for sailors in the Indian Ocean, the Persian Gulf, or the Arabian Sea. It would have been visible just a few degrees over the low southern horizon. I am unsure about the northern latitude the star was visible at that time. I found sources claiming it was visible from the Caspian over the Black Sea and the Aegean Seas. Precession made the star visible to us in Europe now. But its solitary location lended itself to serve as one of the four pillars that upheld the sky dome, by which the sky could be divided in four more or less equal parts. This would automatically result from any early attempt to read the sky like for navigation, for example. These four royal stars are Aldebaran, a red giant that hosts a planet 7 times as large as Jupiter in Taurus. Then there is Antares, a faintly orange variable star currently belonging to Scorpio. Blue Regulus, also a binary in Leo, and Fomalhaut, blue gas giant in Pisces Austrinus. These bright beacons may be responsible for the initiation or formation of the first constellations, but Fomalhaut and Pisces Austrinus would have been connected to Aquarius, the water bearer who pours water into the mouth of the fish. There is more than suggestion that both constellations were connected in early cultures. The drawings on sky maps suggest this still. They both belong to a part of the sky that in Mesopotamia was called the sea. Also Eridanus, Pisces, Delphinus, Crater, Hydra, Argo and Cetus are located in that same region. Around 2800 BC, the vernal equinox passed from Taurus into Aries, where it was still during the 2nd century BC, when Hipparchus compiled a star catalogue and termed and explained a procession of the equinoxes. At least officially, he is the one to whom this discovery is attributed to. More on that later. The fact that a synonym for procession of the equinoxes was also called the Platonic year, and considering Hipparchus worked years after Plato's death, does cause a frown already. In 140 AD, the vernal equinox has left the sign of Aries and entered Pisces. This coincides with the emergence of Christianity, a religious doctrine that uses a lot of fish symbolism. Whether this is mere syncretism, one religion absorbing the symbolism of another, maybe an older doctrine, or if this has its roots in the preferences of the first church fathers, leaving that in the middle. The vernal equinox has always remained important for astronomers since it counts as the 0 point for measuring a star's daily ascension. From the Aegean to the Caspian, the sun would rise above the equator in constellation Taurus at vernal equinox, introducing spring. The mighty bull in connection with fertility and the beginning of agricultural season was most important for the early societies of these regions. I want to read a short piece from an article written in 1948 by a guy called Robert G. Aitken, called The Era of the Four Royal Stars. If I get it right, he was an astrophysicist in his day, a man of science, and it seems to me that he wasn't too keen on symbolism or ancient scientific achievements. Here is what he writes. Now you may well ask, what has all this to do with the four royal stars? The answer is readily given. The vernal equinox is not a date, as is sometimes assumed, because the sun passes through it about March 21st, by our calendar, nor yet a star or a constellation. It is merely a point. It is not a fixed point at that, on the face of the sky. It moves very slowly westwards along the ecliptic, taking 25,800 years for one complete circuit of the heavens. Similarly with the autumnal equinox and the summer and winter solstices. They are merely points, and to locate them, especially in days when no measuring instruments or maps were available, signposts or guides were necessary. When the constellation Taurus was named, Aldebaran, the brightest star in that constellation, was close to and served to locate the vernal equinox. Regulus, the brightest star in Leo, in like manner pointed out the position of the summer solstice, and Antares, the brightest star in Scorpio, helped them to locate the autumnal equinox. There was no particularly noble star in Aquarius to direct them to the winter solstice, but Fomalhaut in Pisces Australis, just across the southern border of Aquarius, served well. These four stars, therefore, were called the four royal stars, not because of any outstanding characteristics of their own, but simply because of their positions as guides to the four most important points on the ecliptic, and they retained their high rank for generations because precession is very quiet and deliberate force. It is nonetheless a force that acts continuously, and it slowly but inexorably compelled these royalties to abdicate simply by drawing their thrones away from under them. They really had no choice. There was nothing for them to do but to join the ranks of ordinary stellar potentates, every one of them a monarch in his own domain, but of no more cosmical importance than scores of others. The era of the four royal stars was thus brought to an end, and in the course of time well nigh forgotten. Earlier in the text he explains how Taurus, Leo, Scorpio and Aquarius were the first constellations guarding the four capital directions. What he does not address, though, sadly, is the origins of the Austrinus constellation. And I have a few questions coming up when I read his article. Still, it is an informative and short read. Links are in the description for those interested. The division of the sky dome into four quarters is, in order to be able to orient oneself in place and time, is only possible with a well-defined 0 point, and indeed, as mentioned, a number of guides in the night sky and the ecliptic plane is serving as the first ruler. The rising of Aldebaran accompanying the vernal equinox, together with the three other leading stars in their respective corners of the sky, gave birth to powerful archetype, shared and maintained simultaneously by late Neolithic and Copper and Bronze Age people, who lived separated by very long distances. But then it were, of course, exactly the travelers who were so very familiar with the rulers of the night sky. Procession of the equinoxes caused these royalties, how Aitken puts it, to fall from their throne, and the division was slowly but surely replaced by a symbol representing the constellations in which the equinoxes and solstices occur. These guides or guards of the four corners have gone through a few metamorphoses through the ages. In the Catholic churches, for example, these royalties are replaced by the four evangelists. Lucas, Matthew, John and Mark respectively represent the constellations Taurus, Aquila the Eagle located just above Scorpio, Leo and Aquarius. When they appear together on vaults around domes, they are referred to as tetramorphs. Tetramorph is a synonym for a chimera, a creature assembled out of four different beings. The four seraphim, the four winged guardian angels or cherubs at the entrances of the Garden of Eden, side with supreme deity in mainly Byzantine but also Catholic churches. The archetype can be found in all Abrahamic religious doctrine. Anglican tradition speaks of four archangels, but that number varies in other traditions, but the four guardians also return in Chinese and other Asian mythology. Alchemists and hermeticists were very fond of them as well. These four stars, symbolized as the tetramorphs or the watchers, could, for example, indeed have been used in encoded messages in alchemy or the business of espionage. by using what is called the equatorial coordinate system, which converts their position in the heavens into a form of latitude and longitude. A location can be plotted. The idea of using references to stars in alchemical transcripts and symbolism appears to stem from Michael Myers' 17th century alchemical book titled The Flying Atalanta. In the discourse accompanying emblem 27, it says, "If a man knows how to number well and distinguish the signs, he will certainly find this key in the northern hemisphere of the zodiac, and the bolts in the south and the southern, and being master of these, it will be easy to open the door and enter." I will leave the link to these interesting stories, thoughts, and proposals under the video. It is worth looking at for those who love a real treasure hunt. I just want to address precession a bit more to close off. For me, exploring into the origins of the swastika, I see another obvious connection, and not only because of the quadruple division, the stars as the spokes in the wheel of time turning around their pivot, the swastika and navigation. It is a thing, and astronomy reveals that connection in more than one way. Is the swastika one expression of the four turning vanes of the great spindle of time? Did the ancients discover the mother wheel of the human time mechanism? Considering what is known by deciphering the earliest records, chances are they knew already several thousands of years ago. Human history can attest of a high level of astronomical observation and record-keeping skills. In fact, with an observational precision of, say, half a degree and a record of 300 years of certain stars, like the four royal stars, but also others like Sirius, Algol, or Betelgeuse, the movement of this great clock would have been revealed. All four had to have been important guardian stars of royal caliber, at least for a little while in human history of certain latitudes, and they may very well be again someday. These four guards of the sky god's dome have certainly appealed to the imagination of historians. Some sources claim they are mentioned in creation mythology of Ahura Mazda around 3000 BC, or that Zoroaster speaks of them in the Avestan, giving them the title of the royal stars of the Persians. But another old paper from 1940s points to the lack of evidence for such close observations of all four stars in the records of Darius I, for example, that they mention the four guards but are talking about the four constellations rather than the particular stars in them. It may be looking for nails on low water. The author also does not find any evidence in the Avestan, and also mentions the guards as the gates of heaven, left aside whether star or constellation do not longer get any mention at all in later writings. Maybe by then they were already fully integrated into the nebulous realm of religion. Also, this paper will be linked in the description under the video. In the article on the possible discovery of the precessional effects in ancient astronomy, Maglia provides a concise insight in the astronomical activities during the main ancient civilizations, beginning at least 5,000 years ago. By considering their possibilities at hand, he attempts to find an answer to the question. I give you a summary of the summary. There are a few archaeological finds exemplary for the diligence of ancient astronomical records. For example, a Babylonian star catalogue known as Aitken, probably written around 1000 BC, but containing astronomical data which can be traced back in time up to 2048 BC. It includes 1. A list of 71 celestial objects like constellations, single stars, and the planets. 2. A list of helical rising of many stars. 3. A list of simultaneous rising and setting of couples of stars. A list of time delays between the rising of same stars. A list of simultaneous transit rising of some other couples of stars. The Indus Valley civilization used Vedic astronomy, which is based on the 5 visible planets and sun and moon. To keep track of it all, they divided the sky up into 27 compartments called nakshatras. It has been established that the oldest records, memorized by Brahmins, go back a very long time before they were eventually written down in the Rig Veda and the Puranas. The system of the division of the sky into 27 smaller lunar mansions, compared to a division into 12 zodiac signs, would only have increased the possibility of discovery of the precessional movement. Because of the works of certain scholars renowned for their work to this day, it has long been assumed that the Egyptian civilizations did not contribute much to the science of astronomy. Apart from the funeral texts written to guide the dead through the night sky, there are only a few written records. However, Maglia points out that these funeral calendars were surely modeled after and based on established scientific astronomical record keeping. In the Middle Kingdom, he says, Egyptian astronomers were able to keep accurate track of 36 stellar objects. This means recording their precise motion, like hour of rising, period of invisibility, and so on, which means they would be able to detect the effect from a huge amount of observational data. The Dendera zodiac is only recent calendar from the 2nd century BC, shortly after Hipparchus' so-called discovery of precession. The true extent of the astronomical knowledge of the Maya has been lost due to the frenzy of Catholic Christianizers. Only a few codices are left, all containing very accurate data of the courses of the planets, but there is little to no information on stellar observations, apart from the Paris Codex, which is still not fully understood. And this is where I got off. I haven't forgotten Delphinus, for those who wondered. It's coming along from here back to the Aegean Sea with my lodestones. I see you when I get there. Bye-bye.